Hello, I'm Casey Anderson. So part of the meat of this whole study that we've been involved with was the interaction of the cattle and the wolf. And so we randomly collared 10 cows in a herd of approximately 450. The cows' collars were recording data every 5 minutes, and the wolf is recording the GPS points every 15 minutes. And so when we merged those together, we wanted to see how many encounters the collared cows had with the wolf in in basically 500 meters. From the 23rd of May through the 30th of November, this is what the slide says is the red dots show where those encounters happened, and those 10 cows had 783 or 84 encounters with that wolf in less than 500 meters. And we have to remember that the cow collars are recording every 5 minutes, the wolf collar every 15 minutes. And we know by the speed of and the distance that a wolf can travel that this is there could have been a lot more encounters happen, but our data may not show it. And also the thing to remember is that this collared wolf is a member of 12 in that pack. There is only 10 collared cows out of 450. And so if you start multiplying that of how many cows come into contact with that wolf and all the other members of that pack, it's astronomical how many times the cows are going to be exposed in close proximity with the wolf. when we're talking about how these cows come into contact with the wolf, this is showing the 10 collared cows and how many encounters they had with that one collared wolf within 500 meters, 250 meters, and 100 meters. And it just is amazing how many times that they come in close proximity. And also note that both cow number 8 and cow number 22 both lost their calves during that summer grazing season. Now, we're not saying that they lost the calves from wolf depredation, but it's a good chance that they did. What we notice over and over again is that at the very most you're going to be able to confirm maybe at the very most 10% of your actual depredations. That means that over 90% of your losses are never going to be detected, never be able to confirm. And we've seen it over and over again. Like I'd mentioned earlier, you know, in 09 we had close to 20 confirmed depredations, but we were missing 65 head of calves and numerous cows and a bull and several yearlings that year. So it's pretty amazing.
We may put it in or we may just leave it out depending on timing and the flow of the other.
So what was with the new technology and the data sets that are being created, they came up with a rendezvous site predictability deal out of Montana. And so just to kind of check and see if how their model worked compared to the GPS points of the wolf that we had, and showed the rendezvous sites that this wolf had on us, we overlaid their program with our data, and it was pretty amazing to see that the predictability of those rendezvous sites were in direct correlation to the actual wolf GPS points that was collected in this study. So as we look at some of the data here, it shows the wolf and cow encounters and at what time of the day that they happen, and it's in direct correlation with the same movements that the wolf has. The wolf's main activity is early in the morning, very late at night, and it just so happened that the cow encounters correlate directly with that same pattern. So one of the main questions that's come up in the study was, how is the wolf going to affect the distribution of the livestock on the landscape? And in 2008 is when we had our first depredation, and we considered that a fairly moderate wolf pressure. And that slide shows the private ground on the right, where there's fences and Forest Service allotment on the left. In 09 is when we had the heavy wolf presence with a pack of 12 wolves in one pack, and you see a whole shift that the cattle moved towards the private ground and came up next to the fences and used that country way heavier than the rest of the allotment. In 2009, because we had so many depredations, there was 15 wolves removed from this area in 2009. So we expected to have a lighter wolf presence in 2010, which we did, but we still had confirmed depredations. But the wolf pressure was lighter, And the livestock movements showed that in our data. We go back to 2011 because once you remove the wolves, it creates a vacuum and it opens up country for other wolves to move in, and that's exactly what happened. Back in 2011, the number of wolves increased, the wolf presence, the number of depredations, and we've seen that same exact shift in the distribution of the livestock on that portion of the permit back up against the private ground and against the fences, which the same thing we experienced in 2009, which just shows that they're trying to seek out a place that they feel safer, but it's probably not going to happen. You know, in these presentations, we're trying to show some of the effects on the cattle and the ranching. And, you know, the direct mortality on all phases of livestock are going to be probably the least costly. And, but yet, when agencies and people are talking about how are we going to compensate the rancher for depredations, it's a big deal. But that's not where it all comes from. And the real big losses is the increased stress on the livestock. Part of the deal with these studies is that we sent cattle to the experiment station out of Burns, and they did blood level tests and stress tests on these cattle, and our cattle responded to all the stimuli where the cattle that were not exposed to wolves didn't even care. It was to a point where as our cattle left the chute and the dogs were there and the wolf scent, that our cattle would not exit the squeeze chute. They felt safe inside of the squeeze chute and they would not exit. So the amount of stress that the wolves create on the livestock is just astronomical. Right along with that becomes the behavioral changes. They become more aggressive to humans, horses, dogs, and it just makes everyday livestock movements harder. Right along with that is when they're stressed and their behavior and their grazing patterns change, they lose body condition. Once they lose body condition, you're going to have lower calving rates. The conception rates are just going to fall out the floor. The turnover of your cow herd is accelerated because you'll end up with medium-aged cows in the prime of their life coming in open, and you can't afford to run those cattle without a paycheck. You know, you can't rebreed those cows and wait 2 more years for the cash flow to start again. So, you know, those are just a few of the things. And then when you're a person like I am that's concerned about range management and the things you do to improve that, and you take that to heart, you know, when the wolf is added in that mix, it just throws a lot of that out the window. It doesn't matter how your water is as far as distributing the livestock. If the wolves move in, the cattle move out. It doesn't matter if you've got lots of feed and lots of water, everything's perfect. They're not going to stay there. So, you know, besides the direct losses, the really big ones is the behavioral changes, body score condition, lower calving rates. Those are the ones that really hit your pocketbook heavy. And yes, you know, the actual depredations are very emotional and time consuming. The whole thing is really hard to negotiate through as far as to be a legitimate livestock operator in the presence of wolves.